Hello everyone. In this video we will be seeing part 10 of What If Deku Was in the DC Universe. So be sure to stick around until the end. Let's get started. Izuku and the rest of the Titans were walking down the street heading to the pier. It had been a hard week of midterms and superhero-ing for them. First they had a 3-page test on how the Roman Empire worked and its fall. Then they had to face off against a rampaging giant robot. Then they had a hard test of chemistry, where they had to know the different chemical reactions of previous experiments. And finally they had to help Hal stop a meteor from falling on the city. They were tired, and all they wanted was to sit down at Sweet Justice and gulp down a large bowl of ice cream. "I can't wait to stuff my mouth with a chocolate kitty special," Barbara said. "Yeah, there's a large strawberry milkshake with my name on it," Kara said. "That all-nighter for Ms. Diaz's chemistry test nearly killed me. Not to mention that robot made a big mess of my beauty sleep," Z mentioned, pointing to the bags under her eyes. "Don't forget about that meteor that nearly crushed us," Jessica added. "We really could use a day or two of rest," Izuku said, with his own eye bags. "Studying and fighting villains at this rate is taking its toll on all of us. Even I struggled with my best subjects, and I get straight A's," Karen said, being dragged by Kara. "Do not allow fatigue to get you, my friends. We've endured this week's arduous obstacles," Diana said triumphantly, despite her also tired look. "Now we get to enjoy the fruits of our labors," she said as they arrived at Sweet Justice. "Please, Diana, no speeches until we get some sugar in us," Kara said, reaching for the door. Izuku and the Titans entered the restaurant and sat down on their usual spot after putting down their orders. They let out tired sighs as they waited for their orders to come to them. Karen had ordered a lemon pie with wild berries. Barbara had gotten her chocolate kitty special like she wanted. Jessica ordered a green tea cake with glazing. Zatanna ordered a sundae with strawberry ice cream for herself. Kara got herself a tall, thick strawberry milkshake with whipped cream on top. Diana ordered her favorite Death by chocolate. And Izuku ordered a large cake batter ice cream sandwich. "Oh yes, finally something sweet to replenish my tired spirit," Diana said before biting into her spoon. "This is just what the doctor ordered," Kara added before drinking some of her milkshake. Just then someone else entered the establishment. Sadly, the Titans were far too focused on their sweets to care. "We really needed this," Karen said. "Yeah, hopefully the weekend will be a quiet one," Izuku said. "To a calm and quiet, normal weekend for us," Diana said, holding up her spoon as if it were a glass for a toast. "Even great heroes need a rest from time to time." "I'll toast to that," Z said, holding her own spoon up. The rest of the Titans did the same and toasted to a quiet weekend to rest their weary minds and bodies. But sadly, it didn't last. Behind the Teen Titans, Barry was attending another client that had just arrived. "Hello there, welcome to Sweet Justice. What would you like to order, sir?" Barry asked. "What the hell do you give out in this place?" asked a gruff and arrogant voice. At the sound of that voice, Izuku almost choked on his own ice cream. His eyes widened in utter horror, as memories of his past were unlocked by that voice. He slowly turned his head to the source of the voice. "Please God, not him," thought Izuku as he slowly turned his head. Right in front of Barry stood a young man with spiky, dirty blonde hair, red eyes and a mean look in said eyes. He wore a red and black sleeveless t-shirt, black cargo pants, combat boots and nasty attitude on his sleeve. "God, why do you do this to me?" Izuku asked himself. Katsuki Bakugo, Izuku's former bully, now stood before the bar ready to order something to eat. Thankfully he hadn't spotted him, but for how long? "Well sir, here in Sweet Justice we serve a wide variety of ice creams, baked goods, sweet treats like cakes, cookies and milkshakes. As you can tell by the name," Barry counted off. "So, what can I get you? A slice of carrot cake, a chocolate sundae, or perhaps one of our specials?" Bakugo only smiled a sinister smile. "How about you give me something worthy of the main protagonist? You are looking at the world's next great hero," Bakugo said, sure of his own superiority. Does that mean you want a slice of cake or something?" Barry asked. "What do you think, loser?" Bakugo snapped at the speedster waiter. All right then," Barry replied, thinking as to what Bakugo would like, or at least tolerate. Katsuki went to one of the chairs and sat down, frightening the other patrons. He looked back at them and gave them a glare that shut them up. His actions caught the attention of the Titans, although Izuku tried his best to avoid being spotted by Katsuki. "Sheesh, what's that guy's problem?" asked Kara. "Someone appears to be a little too full of himself," Z said. Izuku couldn't disagree with Zatanna's words. Every step and action that Katsuki took were filled with arrogance, an arrogance that Izuku knew very well since childhood. It didn't help that he developed a superiority complex, thanks to all the praise that he received throughout his childhood. Izuku just let out a sigh before going back to his treat. If he engaged Katsuki, things could get ugly, and he didn't want to destroy sweet justice again. Perhaps we should just ignore him, Karen said. Back with Bakugo, he was just waiting for his own order to come to him. Just then, Barry arrived with a slice of red velvet cake. Here you go, sir, Barry said, putting the plate on the table. What is this crap? Bakugo asked, sneering at Barry. This is our newest concoction. A red velvet cake with strawberry jam and sweet white icing, Barry explained. A seemingly good treat for anyone to try out, but Bakugo only gave it a bored look. He grabbed hold of his fork and took a bite out of the cake. Bakugo chewed it but then spat it out. What the hell is this crap? Bakugo asked. I just told you, a red velvet cake, Barry replied sheepishly. You expect me to pay for this? Bakugo asked again, this time getting in Barry's face. Well, Barry began before the explosive kid cut him off. You better get me something good or I'll kick your ass, Bakugo said before pushing Barry to the ground. But Barry never reached the ground. A pair of hands grabbed hold of Barry before he could fall. He looked up and saw that Izuku had caught him. Are you all right, Barry? Asked Izuku. Yeah, thanks for the hand, man, Barry said as he got back to his feet. What the? Bakugo said, finally noticing Izuku. Izuku gasped at the sight of Bakugo. The hell are you doing here, you damn Deku? Bakugo said, pointing to him. What? Well, I'm here because of the exchange program, Kachin, Izuku said sheepishly. Dude, you know this guy? Barry asked the green-haired boy. Sadly, I do, Izuku answered. What's a quirkless loser like you doing in a city of heroes? If you're planning on getting in my spotlight, I'll kill you, Bakugo said, lighting up his hands with mini explosions. How about you cool it, Mr. Sparky Boom Boom? Kara asked, catching Katsuki's attention. Katsuki turned to see all of the titans standing behind him. However, instead of being intimidated by the tough-as-nails women standing behind him, he laughed. Typical Deku, needing someone else to bail you out, said Bakugo before walking away. The girls gathered around Izuku, almost like a pack of lionesses protecting one of their own from danger. As Bakugo walked away, Izuku couldn't help but feel like when he was in junior high. Intimidated and embarrassed, with low self-esteem. Diana got Izuku out of those thoughts by placing a hand on his shoulder. Izuku, who was that young man? Diana asked. Izuku let out a sigh. A minute later, the team was now in their secret headquarters under sweet justice. Izuku was sitting on the couch with the girls all waiting to hear his story. His name is Katsuki Bakugo, but I call him Kachin. I've known Kachin since we were both in preschool. I was there when he awoke his quirk explosion, Izuku said, remembering that fateful day in which he learned that not all men are made equal. Wait, is this the bully you told me about? Karen asked. Bully? That guy bullied Greenie? Kara asked, cracking her knuckles. We used to be friends at one point, but for some reason he started seeing me as someone inferior, a side character in his story. Things only grew worse by how people began treating him, Izuku continued. Like he was just awesome, and everyone else just wasn't. Since quirks are more and more common in Japan, being born with a powerful one makes people praise you. But if you've shown them your superpower, sorry quirk, you would have been praised as a hero, Jessica said. Yeah, but I never wanted to be a hero for the sake of fame. All Might entrusted this power to me to be a symbol of hope and peace, Izuku said. I'm not gonna betray his trust to settle an old grudge. How can someone be so adorable and humble at the same tea time? Z asked, hugging Izuku and kissing his cheek. As humble as this talk may be, what do you suppose this Bakugo is up to here in Metropolis? Diana asked. If I know Kachan, and I do, he'll do something big and highly explosive, Izuku said. So what exactly can he do anyway? Barbara asked. He sweats special nitroglycerin that he can ignite at will from his hands. And unlike me, he has had his quirk for 15 years of his life, Izuku said. We should keep an eye on him just in case, Diana said. Or if we need to put him in his place, Kara added. The sun had risen on Metropolis on a quiet and calm Saturday morning. There had been no signs of Bakugo, or trouble for that matter, and the Titans were glad for it. Suddenly a large explosion echoed through the city, shaking the heroes out of their beds. The Titans rushed to the scene of the explosion. Down on the street they saw a stolen armored money truck was turned on its side and wrecked. The truck had a massive explosive blast scorch mark, which could only mean one thing. The robbers were crawling out of the flaming wreckage only to be stopped by a dreaded figure. "You should consider yourselves lucky, you're being stopped by the future #1 hero," Bakugo called out. It was Bakugo in his hero suit. He wore a black sleeveless shirt with an orange X across the chest, black pants, black army boots with red accents, a metallic neck bracer, a black domino mask, and what appeared to be exploding blasts sticking out of his hair. But the biggest thing that the Titans noticed about the suit were the two large grenade-like gauntlets that Bakugo had on both of his arms. "Wasn't expecting this when I woke up," Supergirl said. "If he wants to be a hero, then why dress up as a villain?" Batgirl asked. "I don't think he thought that much on his costume," Deku said, now sporting an added mask of his previous costume. Knowing Kachan, he probably went with that look to be intimidating more than anything. "Well, it's working on those robbers," Wonder Woman said. Down on the street, Bakugo was standing before the robbers while giving them a nightmarish smile. The kind of smile that makes people fear the Joker. "Please, we surrender, Titans, help!" the robber screamed. "Time to take out the trash," Bakugo said before police sirens could be heard behind him. Bakugo turned around and saw the police cruisers coming directly at him with their lights flashing before stopping and pulling out their guns. "Freeze, creep!" called one of the officers. "Hands in the air!" called another officer. Bakugo clicked his tongue in irritation while looking at the cops. He narrowed his eyes as the robbers took this chance to run towards the police, begging to be taken into custody. "I ain't the villain here, dumbasses," Bakugo began, pointing at the robbers. "I'm the future #1 hero, King Explosion Murder." Everyone that heard that name was left in utter silence. No sound but the wind or the chirping of the nearby birds could be heard. An awkward silence took over the street as no one could believe what Bakugo had just said. The silence irritated Bakugo, as he then began shouting at the officers. "What the hell are you staring at?" Bakugo screamed loudly. Back at the rooftop, the Teen Titans were in shock of disbelief. "King, Explosion Murder. Es en serio?" Green Lantern asked Deku. "I honestly have no idea what he was thinking," Deku answered. "I suppose the desire of being seen as intimidating inspired it. Along with his ego apparently," Zatanna added. "We should probably go down there and try to defuse the situation before it escalates," Wonder Woman said before jumping down to the street. "As long as we get a chance of punching that guy for throwing us out of bed, I'm in," Supergirl added. The Teen Titans landed on the street between the officers and Bakugo, who appeared to be getting more irritated by the minute. "Hold it right there, you," Wonder Woman said to Bakugo, holding her hand up in defense of the police. "There's no need for this to escalate." Deku was slightly afraid that Bakugo would recognize the girls from Sweet Justice. As much of a jerk as he was still pretty sharp. "Who the hell are you?" Bakugo asked. "You all best get out of my way, bitches." "Oh, thank God he doesn't recognize them," Deku thought with a sigh of relief, before he registered what Bakugo had said. "Oh crap. What did you just call us?" Supergirl asked angrily. "You deaf or something? You're getting in the way of my spotlight." Bakugo yelled. "Your spotlight looks more like a wreck," Batgirl said. "Shut up. You best stay out of my way if you know what's good for you," Bakugo said, before he ignited his hands. In a blast, Bakugo had flown away from the street and the Teen Titans. "Greenie, you must have the patience of a saint if you lasted years with that guy around," Supergirl said. "This'll only get harder from here," Deku said as a bead of sweat dropped from his forehead. And things did get harder. The entire weekend that was meant to be relaxing for the heroes was instead spent keeping track of Bakugo. Bakugo had been busy. Busy in the sense of blasting his way across the city with his explosions. The armored truck was only the first thing to be broken. Bakugo then blasted a small army of robots that the toymaker had built to steal from a bank, which the Titans had to keep contained. Then he incinerated a building to get to Harley Quinn, and the Titans had to keep from falling down. The Titans have had enough. They were now gathered in their headquarters trying to come up with a plan. "We can't keep going like this," Kara said. "We have to stop this Bakugo before he blows up anything else," Barbara said. "Or pisses off the wrong people," Jessica said. "But how do we do that? Nothing short of a beating will stop Kachan," Izuku said. "Then that's what we do if we can't talk to him to cool down. We must allow cold heads to prevail," Diana said. "It's cooler heads prevail," Karen said. "But you're right. Late that night, Mammoth, a small-time criminal, was running for her life through the streets of the city. Explosions could be heard happening behind him as he constantly screamed for his life. "Please stop trying to kill me," Mammoth screamed as he ran. "You won't escape, villain!" Bakugo called back as he made his way towards him. Bakugo drew ever closer, only inches from his target. He reeled back his right hand, lighting up his hand ready for another strike. Mammoth only had a brief chance to look back as the frightening expression on Bakugo's face looked back at him. "Die!" Bakugo screamed as he thrusted his open palm at Mammoth, who only was able to scream as a light came at him. But the explosion never took the big man. A powerful blast of air sent Bakugo flying away, and the explosion was dispersed by the sudden change. The heroic wannabe tumbled down to the ground before regaining his footing. Once he looked up, he saw Deku standing between him and a cowering Mammoth, followed by Bumblebee and Supergirl. "What did you think you were about to do?" Deku asked, his eyes never leaving Bakugo's. "I was taking down this trash," Bakugo replied. "What the hell, loser? I'm going to be a hero. Heroes are not judge, jury, or executioner," Wonder Woman called from behind Bakugo. He turned and saw Wonder Woman, Batgirl, Zatanna, and Green Lantern surrounding him. Bakugo growled like a cornered beast. He wasn't sure what was the reason for these extras to stand between him and the work of a hero, but he wasn't going to allow them to ride his coattails to the top. "You've got 5 seconds to move out of the way and let me kick that guy's ass, or I beat you all," Bakugo threatened, warming up his hands. "If Mammoth committed a crime, then he goes to prison," Deku said as he and the rest of the girls got ready to fight. "You best get out of my way, or you'll regret it," Bakugo said before blasting himself towards Deku. "Die!" Bakugo threw his attack in a wide angle, but Deku didn't move from his spot. Deku instead steeled himself and jumped forth with the power of One for All. He quickly grabbed hold of Bakugo's arm and, with all his training and power, slammed him into the ground with 5% of his power. Bakugo bounced on the ground as the air left his lungs. "You can't do whatever it pleases you just because of your quirk," Deku called out, his eyes shining with determination. "A hero must be a symbol for the people. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do and nothing more, Bakugo." Bakugo slowly got back up, panting like a starving animal. His rage filling him with a desire for vengeance. No one had ever spoken to him like that except his old lady. Who was this guy that thought that he could just talk to him in such a familiar manner? He was the future #1 hero, the one to beat All Might. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Bakugo asked, growling like a beast. "I'm the hero that never gives up. I am Deku the hero," Deku exclaimed in a fighting pose. Upon hearing that name, Bakugo connected the points. As if lightning had struck him, he figured out who the person before him was. "Deku?" asked Bakugo before he started growling with more intensity. "What's this? Some kind of joke? Did you forget the epic slam that you just went through, Sparky?" Supergirl asked, causing Bakugo to glare at her with red glowing eyes. "If you want to get in my way, then prepare to get burnt," Bakugo said, igniting his explosions, blowing back Supergirl and Bumblebee charging at Deku. Bakugo was upon Deku in a second, forcing him to jump back with the power of his quirk to avoid one of Bakugo's explosions. The rest of the Titans got ready to fight against Bakugo, but Deku asked them to stand back. "This is my fight," Deku said, locking eyes with Bakugo. Wonder Woman looked at the rest of the girls and nodded them. The rest of the Titans would be backup should Deku need it. For now, he was going to be up against his childhood bully in a battle that could change the course of their paths. Deku looked at Bakugo as if they were in an old western or a samurai Akira Kurosawa film. Each of them sizing up their opponent. A clash of the Titans was sure to be unleashed in a matter of seconds. Bakugo's rage kept bubbling up at his sudden realization. All this time Deku had a quirk, and he had been playing the fool all this time. Bakugo gritted his teeth to the point that sparks came out. He would not allow Deku to make him look like a fool any longer. "I'm going to crush you, you bastard," Bakugo growled. You are welcome to try, Kachan," Deku replied, steeling his nerves for the fight. Bakugo's eyes narrowed in rage before charging at Deku with explosions at his back. He pulled back his right arm before bringing it down on Deku, who used One for All to dodge the explosion by the skin of his teeth. "What's the matter? Aren't you gonna fight?" Bakugo demanded, shooting himself forward with another explosion. "If you want to fight, then we'll have to fight someplace else," Deku called out before preparing a finger flick that made Bakugo raise an eyebrow. "Delaware, smash!" called out, releasing the flick. The compressed air of the attack sent Bakugo flying high into the air. Deku followed behind him with a powerful jump of his own. Using 15% of One for All, Deku caught up to Bakugo as he used his explosions to maneuver through the air until he landed on a nearby rooftop. Once they both landed on the rooftop, they charged at each other with intent to fight, but their fires being stoked by something different. Deku sought to defeat the person that he both couldn't stand and admire, while Bakugo wanted to prove that he was the best and no one was going to make him look like a fool. "Come on, Deku. I'll make you pay for making a fool out of me," Bakugo said as he fired himself at Deku. "I never meant to do that," Deku called back as the green electricity crackled around him. Deku shot forwards, ducking under the explosion that Bakugo had sent his way with only a small burn. He then threw a left punch directly at the explosive boy's stomach, sending him backwards. But just as Bakugo was flying back, he grabbed hold of Deku's arm and pulled him into a kick to the face. Bakugo then spun in the air before skidding to a halt. Deku staggered back before regaining his focus and charging in once more with great speed. Bakugo used his explosions to dodge the attacks that Deku sent his way, moving left just as he was about to receive a kick to the face, and turning just in time to fire a full-powered blast directly at Deku's face. Deku was sent back before scattering the smoke of the explosion before dodging the following explosion, as Bakugo was not going to be put in a corner. Bakugo thrusted his palms forward, hoping to create another great explosion, but Deku swiftly backflipped, kicking Bakugo's hands upwards. Deku then used this chance to push himself forward with his hands to double-kick Bakugo in the face. Bakugo was sent flying to another rooftop before he turned his body to land on his feet. Not wasting any time, he pressed his right palm against his left hand, forming a circle, and began firing his own concentrated blasts. "You think you're so smart, Deku? Let's see you come out of this one unscathed," Bakugo threatened. AP shooter. Deku was forced to move from side to side, avoiding the shots being fired at him. Thanks to his training with the girls, he was now able to use up to 22% of his quirk, with only some mild pain. He began recalling his notes on Bakugo's fighting style, and his mind began formulating a plan to defeat him. "Come on, let's see how you can dance," Bakugo called out. Deku had figured out a plan and swiftly decided to put it into action. He raced to the other side of the rooftop and jumped high into the air. Bakugo smiled, believing that he had the perfect shot for Deku. He reached for the pin in one of his gauntlets and aimed it at Deku. "These bad boys are used to store the explosive sweat into a pair of deadly blasts," Bakugo said as he pulled out the pin. "Let's see you dodge this, Deku." Deku's face showed no fear as he reeled back his left arm and tightened his fist. Bakugo fired his attack. A powerful explosive blast went directly towards Deku, but now he put his plan into motion. Deku unleashed the power of his punch directly at the blast, sending a mighty wind blast that could only be compared to that of a hurricane, dispersing the explosion. This gave Deku the opening that he needed as he used his legs to kick himself towards Bakugo at high speeds. Bakugo could only stare in crushing realization as Deku, with a torn mask, charged at him. He quickly got over his shock as he saw Deku coming at him. He reeled back his left arm ready to fire another explosion. Just as the two heroes in training reached each other, time seemed to slow down, as Deku's mind began to process the event. "Kachen, I know that you feel like I was pulling the wool over your eyes. For years you thought that I was nothing more than a nuisance that chased after you. But the reason is that, I admire your confidence, your drive to take on the world. And that is why I want to defeat you," Deku thought in that brief moment before the clash. In a split second, when Bakugo believed that Deku was about to punch him, Deku turned and kicked him in the face. The kick was so strong that Bakugo was sent flying backwards with Deku standing triumphantly. Deku panted as the rest of the Titans arrived. "Deku, are you alright?" asked Wonder Woman. "I am. Kachen is out for the count though," Deku said, but as they turned to see the downed body of Bakugo, they saw that he was missing. "Ah crap, he's gone," Supergirl said. "Guess we have one more rogue to deal with," Batgirl said. "Yeah," Deku said with a sigh. Far away, in an undisclosed location, Bakugo slowly stirred until he woke up. He looked around, growling as he looked for answers. "Where the hell am I?" Bakugo asked as he noticed that his grenades were gone. "Is that how you thank a beautiful lady for saving you?" A taunting voice called from the shadows. "You won't be very popular with girls, honey. What are you talking about?" "I like his don't give a crap attitude," another voice called out. Show yourselves, Bakugo demanded. From the shadows, Catwoman and Livewire stepped into the light. We are the heroes that this city needs, Catwoman said. I'm Catwoman, and this sharp-tongued lightning girl is Livewire. Sup, Livewire replied. We saw your little skirmish with Deku and we would like to offer you something, Catwoman said. Why should I listen to you? Bakugo growled. Because we all have a score to settle with the Titans, and with them out of the way you can be a hero, Catwoman said. And who knows, you aren't that bad looking. What do you say, Bomber? Can you take on this much female muscle? Livewire asked. I ain't a villain, but I will kick Deku's ass, Bakugo growled. Let's talk. Catwoman smiled. The plan worked. Izuku and the rest of the Teen Titans were walking to sweet justice as they usually did after a hard week of taking down crime. Heroes were entitled to a sweet treat after they risked their lives protecting the city. And after dealing with Bakugo and a large sludge monster called Plasmus, they deserved it. I can't believe that living pile of goop gunked all over my hair, Z said as she got some of the muck out of her hair. I'm sure that we can go to your stylist later this week, Diana said as they entered Sweet Justice. The team noticed something was very odd in the restaurant. There was a long line of people walking up to the bar waiting to give their orders. This was a big deal. Wow, must be a busy day, Barbara said. This isn't normal, not even in happy hour is this place ever crowded like this, Jessica said, as she looked at the long line of people waiting. Usually Barry gets everyone's orders out by now, Izuku said. Karen looked at the front bar and saw the couple that owned Sweet Justice and decided to go get some answers. She thankfully was small enough to get through the massive crowd of people to reach the front. Excuse me, ma'am? Karen asked. I'm sorry, sweetie, but you'll need to wait your turn like everybody else, the woman said. No, that's not it, Karen said. I'm looking for Barry Allen. He works here. Oh, I'm sorry, honey. He hasn't been to work all week, said the woman. Sorry, I gotta go back to work. Karen made her way back to the rest of the team and told them what she had heard. There's no way Barry wouldn't come to work, Izuku said. He hasn't gone to school either. Something must be wrong, Jessica said. We should go to his home and get some answers, Diana said before the team left Sweet Justice hoping to find some answers about their friend. According to Izuku, Barry had told him that he lived mostly by himself. However, he often hung around a man by the name of Jay Garrick and another schoolmate, a freshman by the name of Wally West. So the group decided to check out those leads first. They made their way to the registered address of Jay Garrick after Barbara pulled up some files on him. The team were in front of an old suburban home, 2 floors, a porch, and a nice front lawn. An elderly man wearing a red polo shirt and khaki pants was drinking lemonade on the porch. Okay, so from what I managed to find out about Jay Garrick is that he was a college football star that worked as a scientist in what would one day be known as Star Labs, and married his college sweetheart, Barbara said. Why would Barry hang out with him? Isn't Barry like a science geek or something? Kara asked. Yeah, maybe he decided to talk to him about his time in Star Labs, Karen said. We should go ask him, Diana said as they walked up to the porch. The team walked to the porch and once they were close enough they noticed his face's expression. He seemed deep in thought, almost as if he was trying to solve a problem. Maybe it had to be related to Barry. Izuku cleared his throat, causing the elderly man to look up to them in curiosity. Mr. Garrick, sir? Izuku asked. Yes, how may I help you youngsters? Jay Garrick answered. We're looking for our friend Barry, Diana said. How do you know Barry? Jay asked. We go to the same school and he works at Sweet Justice, Jessica said. He hasn't been in either in days, Kara said. And we're worried for his well-being, Z said. It's a bit complicated but, let me just think for a second and Jay began rambling, a little too fast for a man in his 70s. Barbara slowly reached for the glass of lemonade, and while Jay was talking she splashed it at him. In the blink of an eye, Jay moved out of the way at super speed. This of course shocked the rest of the team. Crap, I'm getting too old for this, said Garrick. That would also explain why Barry hung out with him, Kara said. Don't worry, sir, Diana began. The Titans, Jay said, finishing the sentence. Barry told me. I'll tell you what happened. The Titans followed the old speedster into the house. The speedster served them some lemonade before he sat down and began telling them the story. Barry had found some strange fluctuations in the speed force, the source of a speedster's power. He brought me and Wally as backup to find out what it was, Jay began. It turned out that it was Barry's longtime nemesis, Professor Zoom, aka the Reverse Flash. He had come back to end Barry before his legacy could be cemented. Wait, what do you mean by came back? Izuku asked. Was his soul taken to the fields of Elysium? Diana asked. You mean he was muerto, Jessica said. Dead. No, and even if he was, he would have found a way to cheat death. Zoom is a speedster from the 25th century. He used the mantle of the Flash to subjugate his time, but people rose up against him because of Barry's future legends, Jay continued. Zoom decided to destroy Barry by using the Speed Force to travel back in time. He hurt Barry badly, but that set him on the path of becoming the Flash. Now he just wants to destroy Barry. What happened when you found him? Asked Barbara. What always happens when speedsters fight, a race. We chased Zoom at top speeds for what seemed like weeks, until we ran fast enough to enter the Speed Force. That was Zoom's plan all along, Jay continued. In the blink of an eye, Zoom kicked both me and Wally out of the Speed Force. As far as I know, Zoom is the only one that knows what happened to Barry. What can we do to help? Izuku asked. It's risky, but we find Zoom and he'll lead us to Barry, Jay said. Where is that clown anyway? Kara asked. Where he is from originally, the 25th century, Jay answered. Later that night, the Teen Titans, now in their respective uniforms, had followed Jay Garrick to the last place that he saw Barry. They were in the middle of Metropolis Central Park, where Wally West was waiting for them. Wally West was a young man of around 14 years of age. He had fair skin and messy short red hair. He wore a yellow and red hero suit with a small red lightning bolt across a red circle, the upper part being colored yellow with the legs being colored red. His boots were yellow and his gloves were red. Jay Garrick wore his own hero suit on. He wore a long red-sleeved shirt with a large yellow lightning bolt across the shirt, blue pants, red boots, and he wore a helmet that looked like the helmet of Mercury, the Roman god. Well, Jay, what's the plan here? And why are the Titans here? Asked Wally. They're friends of Barry and they want to help, Jay responded. We'll need all the help we can get to fight Zoom. So, how are we going to get to the 25th century? Supergirl asked. Jay pulled out a small cube from his pocket. He pressed a button on it, and the cube began transforming. Jay placed the cube on the ground, and from the cube came a large glass sphere with a command chair in the middle. An old friend of mine named Rip Hunter designed this machine. It's called a time sphere. With this, me and Wally can take you through the Speed Force to our destination, Jay explained. It'll be a bit tight, but I think we can fit, Deku said. Let's go find Barry, Wonder Woman said. The Teen Titans went into the time sphere, as uncomfortable as it was. Deku sat on the chair with Supergirl and Wonder Woman on either side of him. Jessica and Zatanna were behind him. Bumblebee had shrunken down and Batgirl sat on Deku's lap. We're ready, Batgirl said. With that being said, both speedsters began running in circles around the time sphere. Lightning crackled around the sphere, lifting it off the ground with all the speed. Then in the blink of an eye, the time sphere and the two speedsters zoomed into the Speed Force. Inside the sphere, the Titans felt as though they were inside a speeding roller coaster. The only thing they could see was raging storm with lightning all around them. The air that pushed against them felt like a barrage of light punches, but just as fast as it started, it stopped. Deku and the rest of the Titans opened their eyes and couldn't believe what they saw before them. They exited the time sphere and stood between both Jay Garrick and Kid Flash. Welcome to the 25th century, Jay Garrick said. Before the team of superheroes was what could only be described as a true city of tomorrow. Tall, futuristic buildings reached high into the sky. Flying cars flew across the night sky. People wore back to the future-style clothes and strange communicators in their ears. Wow, this is so cool, Supergirl said. Let us admire the future later, we have a mission to accomplish, Wonder Woman said. Wonder Woman is right, we need to find Zoom, Deku said. That'll be easy, Wally said. Just follow the reverse lightning. The Titans turned to see the several flags surrounding a tall building that branded a reverse version of the Flash's symbol. Wow, you weren't kidding when you said he's using Barry's legacy. Let's go, Jay said before the heroes ran towards the large building. The team drew ever closer to the entrance, and found the guards at the entrance armed. The heroes wasted no time and engaged them, but something happened that they were not expecting. The guards moved at super speeds towards the heroes. Is everything faster in the future? Asked Batgirl, dodging the laser by the skin of her teeth. Deku called upon 8% of his quirk and Supergirl used her speed to catch up to the guards. In the blink of an eye, Deku kicked one of the guards and Supergirl punched another one in the face. Wonder Woman blocked the laser blasts with her braces, reflecting them back at the guards but missed them due to their speed. "It is almost like they are speedsters," Wonder Woman said. Green Lantern created a defensive will bubble as Zatanna chanted a spell to get rid of the laser guns. "Resol snug tlem wad," Zatanna chanted, causing the laser guns of the guards to turn into goop. Once the guns were out of commission, both Jay and Kid Flash made short work of the guards. In the blink of an eye, the guards were tied up by the lasso of truth. "How did these guys become so fast?" Bumblebee asked. "I don't think they are speedsters," Deku said. "They ain't speedsters, but something is making them go faster," Kid Flash said. Batgirl noticed the bracelets that they were wearing and took them off of them. She examined them and spotted the electric energy coursing through it. "Ask them what this is," Batgirl said. "Tell us what these bracelets are," Wonder Woman asked, holding up the lasso. "The boss called them speed bracelets," said one of the guards. "To give us super speed." "Must be one of Zoom's toys," Jay said. "But I'm not powerful enough to rival you guys or Zoom himself," Deku said. The heroes turned to the entrance and went on to enter it. The heroes kept to the shadows, using Zatanna's spells to hide their presence from the cameras and the remaining guards. But that didn't stop Supergirl from punching one or two guards that got a little too close for comfort. After a short elevator ride to the top of the building, they arrived at the throne room that Professor Zoom had made for himself. The two speedsters and the Titans got ready for a fight, but oddly enough, the Reverse Flash was nowhere to be seen. "Where is Zoom?" asked Wonder Woman. "He should be here," Kid Flash said. "Smug bastard never leaves his throne room unless he has a good reason," Jay said. Zatanna pulled down the cloaking spell, hoping that they could see the enemy. The team began looking for clues as to the whereabouts of their enemy. But just as they were about to take another step, a yellow blur went past them, knocking them to the ground before stopping before them. Deku looked up to see the one behind the sneak attack and was taken aback by the man before them. The man wore a full-body yellow suit with red boots, red lightning bolt ears, black eyes. And on his chest was a red lightning bolt in the opposite direction than the one Barry had. This man was Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash. "I was expecting Jay and Kid Flash to come here looking for their missing friend, but I never expected them to bring you along," Zoom said with a slightly vibrating voice. "Zoom," Jay said as the heroes got up to their feet. The Reverse Flash smiled as the two speedsters and the Titans prepared for another round against him. The Titans charged at the evil speedster. Wonder Woman threw her lasso while Green Lantern created a set of chains made of willpower. But Zoom moved faster than either attack. He grabbed hold of the lasso of truth and quickly tied up both Wonder Woman and Green Lantern in a split second. Zatanna tried to slow down the Reverse Flash with a spell, but her magic being redirected at Supergirl, knocking her out. She tried to cast another spell but found her mouth shut with duct tape before being knocked out with a swift chop to the neck. Both Jay and Kid Flash tried to take on Zoom in his own game, but for some reason he was much faster than them. Zoom dodged all the rushed attacks from both speedsters with ease. He sidestepped before punching Kid Flash and throwing him into Batgirl, knocking her out. Jay tried to throw a lightning bolt at the Reverse Flash. Zoom saw the lightning bolt coming at him and grabbed hold of it before flinging it back at the aged speedster. Deku called upon 15% of 1 for all, hoping to catch up to Zoom. He charged at him trying to punch him in the face, but Zoom phased through the punch. Deku's mind began thinking as to why Zoom was so powerful, but by the time it processed the question, Zoom had punched him in the stomach 5 times. "You must be wondering how I'm so much faster than all of you, including Jay and Wally?" Zoom asked. Just as Zoom was talking, Bumblebee snuck up behind him. She prepared her stingers to zap him into unconsciousness. Just as she was about to fire, Zoom swatted her away with a super fast wave of his hand. "The thought did cross my mind," Deku said as the room filled with guards. All the guards caught the heroes and aimed their guns at the back of their heads. "Well, if you must know. These bracelets are a little invention of mine," Zoom said, showing off the same bracelets that he and the guards wore. "By wearing these, one can obtain a small fraction of a speedster's power." "But it isn't your power, is it?" Deku asked defiantly. "You are as sharp as the old records say," Zoom remarked. "But you're right. The power source of the bracelets is behind door number." Upon Zoom's signal, the wall behind him began to rise. Behind the wall was a large machine connected to what appeared to be a large hamster wheel ramp. And inside the hamster ramp was none other than the man they were here to find. "I give you Barry Allen, the Scarlet Speedster, the Flash. I used to think that the best thing to do was destroy him and his legacy," Zoom began explaining. But then, an idea hit me. Why kill him when I can use him to power my rule? Barry could only narrow his eyes at Zoom in a defiant glare. Just you wait, Zoom, the Flash said. When I get out of this thing, you'll be sorry. Oh, don't worry, Barry, you won't be alone for much longer, Zoom said before snatching Kid Flash. In a literal flash, Zoom dropped Kid Flash into the speed trap. The younger speedster quickly began running, generating even more power for the bracelets and those using them. Then the reverse flash grabbed hold of Jay Garrick and threw him into the hamster ramp, forcing him to run like the other two speedsters. Now my power is imbued with the entire Flash legacy, Zoom said before turning to the Titans. I will be able to move between any point in time effortlessly. Welcome to the future, Titans. You'll be here a long time. I do not need you for this. Take them to the holding cells. The Teen Titans were taken by the guards to the holding cells at gunpoint. Just as they were moving them to the cells, Wonder Woman stepped on the foot of the guard with her heel before knocking him back with a headbutt. The Titans used this chance to break free from their holdings. Bumblebee activated her stingers, knocking her guard and waking Supergirl, punching both guards. Once all the guards were knocked out, they gathered to make a plan. All right, how do we beat a speedster like Zoom now that he's pumped full of power? Zatanna asked, still feeling the sting of the duct tape. With all three flashes powering him up, he will be hard to defeat, Wonder Woman said. If we were faster, then we could do something, Deku said. That gave Bumblebee an idea. That's it, Bumblebee said as she began gathering the speed bracelets from the downed guards. Wait, Bumblebee, are you thinking that? Of course, Batgirl said as she pulled out the bracelets that she had gathered from the other guards. What are you guys doing? Asked Deku. Putting fair play in the next round, Batgirl said before she started putting on the bracelets on the team. I think I know what you're saying, Supergirl said. But these won't be enough, Deku said. Zoom is too fast, and with his own speed being charged with 3 other speedsters is too much for us. Then let us get more of these bracelets, Wonder Woman said. And if not, we can find another way to get the Flash family out of their mess, Jessica said. The Titans split up. Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Supergirl, and Deku would go after the guards and get as many bracelets that they could. Bumblebee, Batgirl, and Zatanna would look for a way to free Barry and the other speedsters. Back inside the throne room, Zoom was looking over his plans. Now that he was free of the Flash and was using him and the rest of the Flash family to power himself, nothing would stand in his way. Suddenly, 4 blurs knocked out all the remaining guards within the room and knocked Zoom off his throne. Zoom quickly got back to his feet with a growl. Who dares attack Professor Zoom? Zoom demanded. Oh, wow, talking in the third person, Supergirl said. Villain cliches last up to the 25th century. Who'd have thought? We're here to stop you, Zoom, Wonder Woman said. You relics think you can stop me? Zoom asked with a laugh. You haven't even reached your prime. Maybe, but we won't back down from this fight, Deku declared, assuming a combat stance. Zoom narrowed his eyes as the Teen Titans charged him with their new super speed. With the new super speed alongside their normal speed, the heroes and the villain clashed with great speed. As the 4 Titans battled against the Reverse Flash, the remaining Titans moved towards the speed trap and began working on disabling it. The Flash family noticed this and began thinking of doing something of their own to bust out. Back in the fight, Wonder Woman ran from the side to land a punch to the villain. But Zoom ducked underneath the attack and grabbed hold of Thiefist and threw her away. But then came in Supergirl with her newfound speed and punched Zoom away. Zoom regained his footing and rushed at the Daughter of Krypton, but was met with a hard green brick wall. Green Lantern had been using the speed not to make her body faster, but her mind worked now 3 times faster, and her constructs were just as durable. Just as Zoom was about to move into position, he was met with a roundhouse kick to the face from Deku, using 15% of One for All. You won't hurt anyone else, because we are here, Deku said as the green electricity crackled all over his body. Zoom swiped the blood off of his mouth and smiled before he began clashing with the heroes once more. Outside the fight, Batgirl and the other Titans were helping disabling the trap. They unplugged and put in the coding needed to let Zatanna do her thing. Odnu H Skulfo 8 Deeps part, Zatanna chanted, causing the machine to break down slightly. Now, while Zoom's distracted, we can focus our speed to create a dimensional rift to move out of the trap, the Flash said. You'll have to hurry, Zoom is picking up the speed, Bumblebee said as she saw how the fight was going. Back in the fight, Zoom was clashing against the Teen Titans. First he grabbed hold of Green Lantern and slammed her into a wall, knocking her out. He then ran towards Supergirl. She threw several punches at the man in yellow, but his greater mastery of his abilities allowed him to phase through them. He then snatched the speed bracelets from her before using the Kryptonian woman to knock back Wonder Woman. "Did you all really thought you could beat me at my game?" Zoom asked before throwing away the bracelets. "Maybe, but we won't know until we try," Deku said, calling upon more of the power of One for All. Deku charged at the Reverse Flash, clashing over and over again. Inside the speed trap, the three flashes had sped up just enough to open up the rift. "Alright, now we only have enough time for one of us to get out," the Flash said. Jay Garrick and Kid Flash looked at each other and smiled. Without a second thought, they pushed the Flash into the rift. "Hey, a warning next time," Flash said as he went into the rift. Back outside in the fight, Zoom was running circles around Deku, while he used his best to block the attacks with his own arms and legs. Deku punched left and right, but Zoom easily dodged the attacks, landing punches in Deku's face and stomach. "You know, I'm actually disappointed that I have to put you down before you've reached your prime," the Reverse Flash said. "You don't know this, but you've only scratched the surface of your power. No Black Whip, no flight, and no 100% of your power," he said before kicking Deku to the bottom of his throne. "Too bad your descendants won't even be born," Zoom said, as his hand began to vibrate. "What a shame." "Hey Zoom," called a voice, stopping Zoom. The Reverse Flash turned around and saw the Scarlet Speedster standing behind him. Zoom stopped his attack and turned to face his old rival. "What do you say? One last race?" Flash asked with a confident smile. Zoom shot his own smile. In the blink of an eye, both speedsters rushed at each other. With a great combination of speed and power, they began rushing all across the room. Flash punched Zoom across the face, but he then kicked Barry away before rushing him once more. They exchanged blows, blocking however they were able to. To Deku it looked just like in those old fighting animes where the two fighters appeared and reappeared only to clash. Deku couldn't help but analyze the situation. Things were not going to go smoothly for the Flash. He began thinking about what to do. From what he could gather, Zoom had a big ego. Seeing himself as the greatest speedster in history, that meant that Zoom would toy with his enemies. Then, an idea came to Deku. "Barry, smarter not harder," Deku called out with Flash only able to hear it as a whisper. The Flash got back into the fight after receiving a headbutt by Zoom. He grabbed hold of him as they sped towards a wall. They busted out through the wall, falling down through the air. Both speedsters quickly began running down the building and continued doing so until they reached the street. As soon as they landed on the street, they ran faster and faster through the streets, leaving Metropolis behind. The fields quickly changed as both speedsters ran across the globe in one race to end all races. "My speed was always a match for yours, Flash, and now I'm imbued with the speed of both your friend and your mentor," Zoom said as they ran across the Pacific Ocean towards Australia. The two speedsters ran fast into the heart of the outback, where they began fighting once more. They began running in circles as they began punching at each other. Lap after lap they dug a deeper hole where they continued running. After connecting a punch on Zoom's stomach and then being thrown on the wall of the hole they were making, an idea struck Barry. He extended his hand, vibrating it at the exact heating frequency to turn the sand into glass. Zoom decided to take another swing at Barry, but the Flash stopped on his tracks, confusing Zoom. The Reverse Flash continued running until he spotted the Scarlet Speedster leaning on the crystal wall. Before he could stop, the Flash stuck out his foot. Zoom tripped, and with his speed and the lack of friction of the glass, he painfully bounced and crashed to a stop before he struggled to get back to his feet. Zoom's costume was torn and he had lost his speed bracelets. Just then, he looked up and saw the Flash standing before him. "I'm the Flash. Speed is my game," the Flash said. In the blink of an eye, the Flash zoomed after his enemy. With blinding speeds, the Scarlet Speedster punched Zoom across the face over and over again until he was out for the count. Sometime later, the Teen Titans and the Flash family had returned to Metropolis of the 21st century after putting Zoom into custody. "Man, I'm so glad to be back," Barry said, looking around the city. "Good to have you back, son," Jay said. "Thanks for saving my skin back then, guys," Barry said to the Titans. "You don't need to thank us, Barry. We only did what a hero should do," Deku said. At that moment, Barry's phone began ringing. He answered the call. It was none other than his bosses, begging him to come to Sweet Justice before they were overrun by the small army of Sweet Seekers. Whoa. Gotta go guys, see you soon, Barry said before speeding towards his other heroic calling. As the Titans each went their separate ways, Izuku couldn't help but think about what Zoom had mentioned. Was there more to One for All than he knew? Izuku stood in the junkyard in the late hours of the day, practicing some exercises that Diana had placed for him. He threw a punch after punch while keeping himself as immovable as possible with bent knees. He had One for All coursing through his entire body at his basic 5% in order to fulfill the amount that Diana had placed on him. Part of the green-haired hero in training thought that Diana was trying to toughen him up and increase his stamina to ridiculous levels. Izuku counted as he pulled back his arms before punching once more. Izuku finished his 5th routine of punches and allowed the power of his quirk to flow out of him. He couldn't feel his arms and was panting like a dog after running a marathon. He pressed his hands on top of his knees to rest them a little bit, but he knew that the training was only just beginning. Alright, now I gotta do the leg exercises before going back home and take a much-needed shower, Izuku panted before calling up his quirk's power once more, but then a thought crossed his mind. Izuku thought about the words that the Reverse Flash had said. No Black Whip, no flight, and no 100% power. What exactly did he mean by that? Izuku thought about it for a moment and looked at his hand in curiosity. He knew that the nature of One for All was that of a power-stacking quirk. Through several generations it had stacked enough power to transform All Might into the #1 hero. But what kind of power was it stacking? It isn't just physical strength, it has to be something more, Izuku began thinking out loud. Since quirks are tied to biology, and they're passed down and combined. Could One for All work like that? If so, there must be something more to the words of, "Yo Greenie! You're muttering again," Kara called from behind Izuku, causing him to jump in fright. Kara stood behind Izuku with a sneaky smile on her face as she stifled a laugh from Izuku's face. "Kara, please don't scare me like that, and I'm sorry for the muttering," Izuku said as his face turned red from the surprise. Kara giggled at the Japanese student's red face. She truly enjoyed making him blush, whether it was by kissing him by surprise or by snuggling against him when they were alone. She might be a rocker and punk, but she was also a sweetheart. "Don't feel bad, Izuku," Kara giggled. "I just came to tell you that dinner was ready. Want a lift back home?" "Yeah, that would be great," Izuku replied before a thought crossed his mind. "But wait, didn't you say you failed your driver's test?" "Yeah, but I can always do this," Kara said before lifting up Izuku bridal style. Kara then took to the sky with super speed and flight as Izuku screeched in fear. As much as Izuku liked Kara to help out from time to time, he didn't however liked how she often did this. It was almost like her hobby, and it brought back memories of his first meeting with All Might. A short flight later, Izuku and Kara were eating at the table with Mr. and Mrs. Danvers. The food that they were having was chicken dumplings and vegetables. As the family ate their dinner, Izuku continued to think about what he could do, and if there was more to One for All than what he was led to believe. "Hey Greenie, what's wrong with you? You haven't touched your food in a while," Kara pointed out. "Oh, I was just thinking about something we heard at school." "You know the future Flash rumor," Izuku said as Kara sort of got the hint. The team had come up with a special hint for conversation, in case they had to talk about hero work while around other people without giving themselves up. In Kara and Izuku's case, he'd say something about school as it was the only thing that Kara didn't like to talk about. Right. Remind me what that was all about again," Kara replied. But it was still a work in progress. The project that Barry was trapped by, we had to travel to 25th Street to help him, Izuku said slowly. "Huh. Oh, yeah, I remember now," Kara said, finally understanding Izuku's point. "What about it? If you need some more help you can just ask." "It's something about what I heard, the whole Black Whip thing," Izuku said. "I don't know how I can get that." "Maybe you can ask the teacher, he could have some answers," Kara suggested. "I am so happy that you two are helping each other with schoolwork, right honey?" Mr. Danvers said with a smile. "It shows how much you two are now much better friends," Mrs. Danvers added. "I hope you two keep being such good friends for a very long time." Both young adults looked away from each other as they were well aware of how good they were as friends. After they had finished dinner, Izuku decided to call Toshinori Yagi, aka All Might, to see if he had any answers to his questions. The phone rang 3 times before the #1 hero picked up the call. Hello All Might, it's Midoriya," Izuku replied. "Ah, young Midoriya, so good to hear from you. I've been reading the news and it seems the American style of heroics suits you. How go things? Everything's gone good so far, but I had a question that I had hoped that you could help me with, Izuku continued. What seems to be the problem? One for all is a power-stacking quirk that becomes stronger as it's passed down, right? Yes, that is the case. But you already know this, young Midoriya. Remember the adventure I told you about with the Flash and the Reverse Flash? Well, something that he said about my quirk. I'm just wondering if it could possibly stack more than just raw power that becomes super strength. Could it be possible that One for All stacked the power of the quirks of previous users? I don't know. No other quirks manifested themselves when I inherited it, but it could be possible. I once had a vision appear before me of the former wielders of One for All, including my master, but I only saw them once. Have you had any of those visions? No, but that could be the key to answering this question. What did you do to trigger the vision, or did it just come to you, All Might? It came to me almost like a dream that happened after I was knocked out. I am sorry, but I don't have any more information, young Midoriya. This has been more than enough, All Might. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions. Any day, young Midoriya. Take care, All Might said before hanging the call. Izuku put away his phone and began thinking about the possibility of a vision. So, did you learn anything new, Greenie? Kara asked, scaring the life out of Izuku once more. After that little jump scare, Izuku and Kara went to sleep after a good day's work, but Izuku wasn't sleeping. He thought about what All Might had told him, about the vision that he had about the previous users of One for All, so he decided to try a little experiment. He activated One for All to only 1% as he slept. Izuku remained in his bed for an hour, keeping the power coursing through him, but all he got was a sleepless hour. He tried to think about the quirk that he had heard, but nothing came. He began mumbling to better rationalize the situation, but nothing happened to him. At the sound of the incessant ramblings of Izuku, Kara grumbled out of her bed and walked over to Izuku's bed. She poked his cheek, causing him to open his eyes and see the tired face of the muscular blonde. Hey Greenie, sorry but I really want to sleep, could you stop mumbling? Kara asked. Sorry Kara, I'm just trying to trigger the vision that All Might spoke of, Izuku said, lifting his upper body. He said that it came to him as a dream, so I thought I could trigger it. Well, in that case, go to bed and we'll figure this out with the girls tomorrow, Kara said. But what if? Izuku tried to argue, only to be cut off by a finger flick of Kara knocking him out. Izuku fell back down to the bed unconscious. I love you Greenie, but pillow talk is only effective when I'm fully awake, Kara said as she then kissed Izuku where she flicked him and then goes back to her bed. Although Kara's actions were a little rough, they were exactly what Izuku needed. Izuku opened his eyes and found himself walking in some sort of barren field within a void with stars. A strong wind blew across the plains, ruffling Izuku's hair and hitting his face. He tried to speak but no words came out. What's going on? Izuku thought before looking down. Izuku saw his body almost completely made out of black mist-like energy, except for the upper part of his face, half of his right arm and left leg. Ah, what happened to my body? Izuku shrieked in his mind. Izuku frantically began looking around for answers, for any signs of life. Anything that could tell him what was going on. His eyes then spotted a great flame standing a few feet before him. It looked like a bigger version of the fire that is always lit in the Olympic Games, but with much greater raw power. Even at that distance, Izuku could feel the great power coming from the flames. It was energizing, pulsating like a heart and warm. The green-haired young man immediately figured out what this flame was. This was the source of One for All. Izuku then followed a trail of smoke coming from the flame. The smoke slowly began to take shape, creating not one but 8 other people. Izuku was able to see the faint figure of All Might in his skinny form standing next to a beautiful black-haired woman. His eyes kept trailing down as some of the figures weren't all that well formed, until his eyes landed on the last 2 figures. The first one was a skinny pale man with white hair covering his eyes, wearing a long-sleeved white shirt and blue pants. And next to him stood a tall bald man with goggles on his forehead, wearing a biker's red sleeveless jacket, black pants and fingerless gloves. I'm surprised that you're here so early, a voice came from the skinny man. But your path has been a little different, hasn't it? Izuku's eyes went wide. He hadn't expected them to talk to him. He tried to respond to the meek and kind voice, but he then remembered that he had no mouth. The skinny man walked up to the current wielder of One for All. "Do you know who I am?" the skinny man asked. Izuku merely nodded. He recalled the story that All Might told him about the origins of One for All. The man before the young hero was none other than the first wielder of One for All. "You have a pretty strong determination to become a hero. And you have much to protect," the skinny man said. "You currently have full control of 35% of your quirk, but you might have to become much stronger for what you'll be facing." Izuku wanted to reply, ask what the first inheritor was talking about. Just then the first inheritor placed his hand where Izuku's chest would be, and his hand began to swirl. The hand along with the rest of the man's body begins to fade into Izuku's mist-like body. "But I know that you'll be alright, you have good friends," the first inheritor said before disappearing completely. Just then Izuku heard a grunt, and looks up to see the muscular bald biker man standing in front of him. He had half a smile on his face, almost as if he was challenging Izuku on the spot. "So, you're here looking for about my quirk, huh? Well, get funky," the biker bellowed, sending Izuku back. Back in Kara's room, the female Kryptonian woke up from a sound night of sleep. She yawned and stretched her arms before turning to her roommate with half-opened eyes. "Morning, Greenie, you slept well?" Kara asked before her eyes snapped open. "Holly molly." On Izuku's side of the room, everything was a mess. The bed was flipped, the nightstand was broken into pieces, and the books were scattered on the floor. Izuku was laying on his hands and knees looking at his right hand. The green-haired boy looked like he had been through one heck of a dream or a nightmare. Izuku pants as he feels the power of One for All pulling back. Later that day, Izuku and Kara meet up with the rest of the Teen Titans at their secret headquarters under Sweet Justice. Izuku explained to them the dream that he had, and that he isn't sure as to what the first inheritor or the biker guy meant when they spoke to him. "Sounds like you had one nasty dream, darling," Z said before turning to Kara. "And you shouldn't just flick someone into unconsciousness like that. What if you rattled his brain by accident?" "It was a gentle tap, I promise. Besides, Greenie here can take on way worse," Kara said, winking at Izuku. "Did All Might mention something would happen when you met the previous inheritors?" Karen asked. "No, he said that they only appeared to him once, and that he almost dismissed it as if it were a dream," Izuku explained. "But there's something that bugs me. The biker guy that said, 'Get funky.' Yeah, he did sound like he was a little intenso," Jessica said. "What did he mean by funky anyway?" "Could this be like a test set by the previous wielders of your quirk?" Diana asked, chiming in. Izuku and the rest of the team looked at Diana in wonder as they wondered if her words were true. Could the previous users be sentient within the quirk itself and be trying to get Izuku ready for something? If so, then what were they preparing him for? Just then, an alarm goes off on the base. Barbara quickly pulls up the alert on the monitors and shows a bank heist happening in the Central Bank of Metropolis. "Friends, we are needed," Diana said. "Titans together." The team of heroes quickly change to their uniforms and head off to the bank to stop the robbers from escaping with their ill-gotten loot. In 2 minutes flat, the Teen Titans spot the getaway car where the robbers were fleeing with several bags of money. The team take after them with the criminals noticing them with their rearview mirrors. "Halt now, villains!" Wonder Woman called out. But one of the robbers popped out holding an assault rifle in his hands, with another one popping out from the other side of the car with grenades in his hands. The first one opened fire on the heroes, forcing Wonder Woman to block the bullets with her bracelets. Batgirl and Bumblebee docked to cover as Zatanna and Green Lantern Jessica Cruz used their powers to block the stray bullets and the grenades that the second robber was casually throwing. "Potsla stelub ni riet skart," Zatanna chanted as Green Lantern created a circular shield to block the bullets. Deku and Supergirl pushed through, easily dodging the bullets that the robbers were shooting at them. The two heroes were closing in on the car, when at that moment, another robber flung a grenade at Supergirl. But she didn't stop her stride, but the grenade blasts a blinding light instead of an explosion. Supergirl recoils from the sudden bright light. "Supergirl!" Deku screams before turning angrily at the robbers. Who would have thought that taking down a knockoff of Superman would be so easy? One of the robbers taunted. Deku overheard this and narrowed his eyes as he made a one-for-all jump at the car. Sadly, the car did a sharp turn, avoiding capture by the inheritor of One for All. Deku kept on going, unable to stop, until he crashed into some trash cans. Deku glared at the laughing bank robbers. A rage began to bubble inside Deku as he narrowed his eyes at the robbers. He got his arm ready for a Delaware smash, wanting nothing other than to catch those criminals. But his usual green crackling lightning turned black and fired directly at the getaway car. Like a black lightning bolt, the energy tendril latched onto the car's back axle, ripping it along with the wheels. The car was flipped over and was sent flying as Deku stared in surprise and fear as more tendrils began shooting off of his arm. The black tendrils began to hit the street, and everything around Deku. A light post was whacked off by a single strike, a bike was thrashed down the middle, and several glass windows were shattered by the whipping tendrils. "Arg!" Deku screamed as he tried to get the tendril under control. Just then the rest of the Teen Titans arrived to see the chaos of the new power that Deku had unlocked. "Deku!" Wonder Woman called out with worry in her voice. "I can't control it!" Deku struggled to say as he was being lifted by the black energy tendrils. The Titans jumped back, avoiding one of the tendrils swiping at them. "We have to contain Deku before he hurts himself and others," Wonder Woman said to her friends. Green Lantern create a force field around Deku. Bumblebee and Batgirl secure the bank robbers. Zatanna, you, Supergirl and I will have to contain Deku with everything we have. "Right behind you, Wonder Woman," Supergirl replied as everyone got ready to do their respective jobs. As Deku fought against the strange power that coursed through his arm as if it were a wild alligator, Supergirl caught him from behind before Wonder Woman did the same from the front. Both women held him in a bear hug, trying to keep him still enough for the others to do their part. Zatanna appeared next to them and quickly began to chant a spell to keep Deku's power under control. "K-Calb slurred net to Carter," Zatanna chanted, causing a purple aura to pull at the wild tendrils, but they were fighting every second. Green Lantern created a will construct bubble around Deku, Wonder Woman, Supergirl and Zatanna. She put all the will she had to keep the rampaging power under control, but every strike from the new power was like being hit by a truck. Inside the bubble, Deku was trying his best to pull back the power, but to no clear avail. "It's no use, the power isn't pulling back," Deku said as Wonder Woman held his arm. "Do not give up, Deku," Wonder Woman replied as a whip cut off a piece of her hair. "Yeah, you can put this stuff under control, darling," Zatanna replied before dodging another whip. "You heard them, put this black whipping thing in its place," Supergirl said, holding Deku tightly. At that moment Deku realized what Supergirl had just said. The power that he'd been trying to learn about was called Black Whip, and now these tendrils were coming out and attacking like actual whips. Guilt began to fill Deku as it was his desire to learn more about the power that led him to this. He felt like a beginner once more, breaking his own body in an attempt to use his powers. He wasn't strong enough for this. "Deku," Wonder Woman called out to her teammate, getting his attention. "You can not zone out because of guilt. This is part of your power, a part of you, and as such, you must control it." Wonder Woman's words struck at Deku. He took in a deep breath, closed his eyes and slowly began to calm himself. He let the rage and self-doubt to leave his body until he could sense it. The power was calming down as he was. "That was a nice pep talk," called a voice inside Deku's mind. Deku opened up his eyes and found himself back inside the void of power that was his quirk. In front of him was the bald biker man, once with just as mean a look as he had the last time. "So tell me, kid, are you gonna get funky?" the biker screamed, scaring Deku. Deku couldn't reply with words, but after getting back his nerve, he nodded in agreement. He couldn't back down from what the biker was saying. "That's good to hear. Now listen, we've only got a little time before you go out once more," the biker explained. "Listen, kid, your last adventure and brief connection with this speed force has empowered the core of One for All, causing it to grow. The remnants of the previous users and their quirks have been getting drawn to the core. That means they'll wake up soon enough. The one that just got woken up is my quirk, Black Whip." The biker lifted his right arm and the same black tendrils manifested around it. "This power is tricky to use at first, but with the right amount of training you'll be able to call upon it," the biker continued explaining. "You must keep your heart calm, and keep in mind what you want to capture with it. You must have really wanted to catch someone to get the quirk so out of control, but don't worry, kid. You'll have more than enough backup for the looks of it." The biker then extended his right hand, placing it on Deku's chest, causing his whole spirit to swirl into Deku. "Now go get funky, kid." Deku's eyes shot open, finding himself back in the real world. He saw his friends holding on to him. He then looked at the power of Black Whip and began to pull it back. With his heart calmed down, the black tendrils were easy to control. "Greenie, you alright?" Supergirl asked. "Girls, I got it," Deku told his friends as they slowly began to reach the ground. As soon as all four of them touched down, Green Lantern made the construct disappear. She went up to her fellow friends to see what was going on, or if anyone was hurt. "Ay Dios mío, are you guys alright?" Green Lantern asked with worry. "We're alright, right?" Wonder Woman asked, looking at Deku's arm. He smiled, lifting up his arm, inspecting it. Just then a piano from one of the top floors dropped down on the group. Just then Deku threw his arms upwards and the black tendrils shot up, wrapping and catching the piano. The girls all look at Deku as he dropped the piano away from them. "Yeah, I think we're good," Deku said with a smile under his mask before a thought caught him off guard. "Oh no, the robbers, they're getting away," he called out before seeing the robbers tied up by Bumblebee and Batgirl. "Hey, cool new superpower, Deku," Batgirl said as she sat on top of one of the robbers. A short while later, Izuku and the rest of the Titans were at the junkyard as he was trying to explain what had happened. After telling them that the exposure to the Speed Force triggered the expansion of One for All's core, and that had triggered the awakening of different quirks. "Wow, so you'll be having stuff like flying and heat vision next, Greenie?" Kara asked, ruffling his hair. "This means that there are more power waiting to be unlocked," Barbara said with glee. Oh man, I can't wait to see them in action." "Yeah, but in the meantime, I need to learn how to control this one," Izuku said as he looked at his arms. "And we'll be there with you, Izuku," Diana said, smiling before placing a hand on Izuku's shoulder. "And guys, this is the end. I hope you guys enjoyed. Well, until next time, peace."